Hey everybody, it's Kieran here from Not Just Travel, just coming to you with an update. Today I'm going to be quickly talking about travel corridors and what they mean for your summer holidays. So, as you might have seen yesterday, the government kind of made their announcement on which destinations you can travel to without having to quarantine when you return back from those destinations. What we were expecting the government to announce were kind of travel corridors. These were supposed to be two-way agreements, so countries that you could go to and not have to quarantine when you arrive, and countries that when you return back from, you also wouldn't have to quarantine, so there would be kind of limited or no travel restrictions at least. Obviously, when you then arrive in resort, the situation may be different, but for the very least for getting to and from those countries there would be no travel restrictions per se. Now unfortunately what the government announced wasn't as clean as that. What they've done is they've gone and announced an initial list of say 50 countries whereby if you were to return back from them you wouldn't be expected to isolate or quarantine yourself for 14 days. Now the reality of this list is that doesn't necessarily mean that you can travel to that country full stop, or that you can travel to that country without having to either isolate, pay to have a COVID test, or possibly just kind of travel without any limited restrictions. So it is a bit murky and a bit unsure to kind of know which destinations you can go to. The great thing, however, just to kind of top off at the very beginning of this, now the blanket ban on kind of non-essential travel by the FCO has been scaled back. So what that means is if you were to go on holiday to one of the destinations that is on this list, your travel insurance will be valid. Now obviously that may not necessarily cover you for coronavirus related illnesses, so you do need to double check with your insurance company whether or not they do cover you for any COVID related illnesses, but what it does mean is your travel insurance will cover you for general travel to that destination. So if you kind of damage your suitcase or lose something or something gets stolen or you come up with any other medical costs, your insurance will likely cover those policies now, whereas when the FCO ban was for a non-essential travel list, travel insurance just wouldn't cover you anyway. So the important thing to take away from this kind of initial announcements, at least anyway, is that things are stepping in the right direction. The great news is we can all go to the hairdressers, so hopefully I can get this sorted out. But also pubs are opening up now as well, so obviously you've still got social distancing measures, but it'll give you a taste and a sign of what things could be like as well if you were to travel on holiday and go to a resort. And also that this initial list, even though it's not black and white, you can go to this country and there are no limitations, it does mean that destinations are starting to open up to us, and the possibility of summer holidays and holidays before the end of this year are now a reality. Now we have been in touch with a lot of kind of destination management companies as well, so people who kind of look after the resorts in different destinations, and the airlines and cruise companies are starting to release information on what would your experience be like when you are actually on holiday now, or what will the future of travel look like. I'll be kind of trying my best to share some of these. A lot of this information they're sharing out are kind of more aimed at people in the travel industry. So they're not really kind of aimed at the general public. It's not that there's any information you wouldn't want to know, they're just not necessarily talking to you, their customer, they're talking to us travel agents. So any I do find that are kind of suitable for the general public, I will do my best to share them, just so you can get a feel of what it will be like to actually travel to say Spain, and what it will be like in resort. Particularly the cruise industry this week as well, they've started to share some of their information on what it'll be like to actually be cruising in the near future. Now, just to give you kind of a heads up, there are really popular destinations on this kind of travel list that you can go to. Just going to grab my iPad and kind of read off that list now as well, just so you can see. I'm not going to list all of them, just because, like I say, not every single country we can arrive in anyway. Some countries have just closed their borders to travellers from the UK. Some of them you have to kind of have a COVID test at your expense and have evidence of that COVID test before you arrive in the country. Some of them are asking you to pay kind of almost a deposit ultimately, so that if you do then have any medical expenses, they will take the money off that deposit. So it's not that you can't go to those countries, you absolutely can. There are just caveats. Some of the countries, however, that are kind of really popular destinations that people are interested in booking this summer, but also have kind of two-way access. You've got Greece, Turkey, Italy, Vietnam, Antigua Barbuda, Jamaica, Spain. They're kind of the headline ones ultimately. They're the ones that kind of British tourists, British travellers go to every year. So they're really popular popular. They're selling already. My advice to you, if you are thinking of going on a summer holiday this summer, get in touch as soon as possible. What will happen is basically, as you probably heard of the news, a lot of the airlines have had to cut back on their flights they're offering. A lot of resorts in these destinations have had to cut back their capacity to say 50% to manage social distancing. So what you're going to find is as the rush starts building up, that availability of holidays is going to disappear. There are going to be less flights for people to get to these destinations, and there will be less rooms in hotels for people to go on to. So don't think, great, everything's open and we can all go back as normal. These resorts will be quieter than they have been in the past, which means availability is going to be lower. Now, price-wise, what we're expecting to happen is prices will not come down. So if you're expected to find some cheap, amazing bargains, I think, unfortunately, this summer is unlikely to happen, mainly, again, down to the fact that hotels are at lower capacity. So it means that they have to kind of keep their price up to make sure that they're covering themselves. We're not expecting a price surge too much. We're not expecting prices to go through the roof because of this limited capacity, just because there is obviously a limited amount of money that people are willing to pay for certain destinations. But we are definitely expecting those prices to hold. But if you are thinking of going away this summer, definitely do get in touch with us as soon as possible, just because, as I say, there's only so many spaces available on those flights and only so many hotel rooms available in these destinations. If you really do want to go away and you've got, particular requirements, you're a multi-generational family, you need adjoining rooms, or you need kind of those bigger family rooms, you want some of the more exclusive rooms like swim-up rooms if they're available, anything like that, definitely get on it as soon as possible, because those rooms will be gone and you may find that you won't be able to actually go on holiday even if you wanted to. So guys, that's it for this week. It's just a kind of going to concentrate on the kind of the general travel situation at the moment. What I'm planning to do moving forward is to kind of break these weekly updates into kind of more just chunks throughout the week, just to kind of so I can hone in on different topics. So possibly what I've been thinking about is I've just now recently finished kind of Princess Cruise Line training. Brilliant cruise line, amazing experience. So possibly what I'll do is kind of a one-off, say, bite-sized chunk on what it means to sail with Princess Cruise Lines or P&O Cruise Lines, or possibly like look at different destinations, so the Moon Palace in Cancun and what a great destination that is. Hopefully then you'll kind of get a bit more of an insight into individual destinations and resorts, rather than it being kind of more headline news of what's happening in the travel industry. This is also kind of just a bit of, because we're looking to be coming out of quarantine, hopefully there'll be less need for kind of a news update and more of a kind of, these are some of the great destinations you can travel to, and kind of the news update will be a bit more positive now about great new destinations going on sale, availability for great rooms and things like that. So hopefully we'll have a more exciting and more interesting travel update for you as we kind of move out of this quarantine period and move towards traveling to the rest of the world. So guys, if you are heading out to the pub today and enjoying kind of your first trip to the pub post-quarantine, stay safe. Remember, we are still dealing with coronavirus, so just look after yourselves and have a great time. Other than that, guys, have a great weekend and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye!